let's go.
Terrible.
For those of you who weren't here I guess that was just a Patreon stream, so most of you. For those of you, I'm traveling, so I don't have my normal setup. Everything's gonna be a little bit different. I don't have a set. I'm in a room. Hi.
Hello, squishies.
What's up, everybody? What's up?
Whoop. Thank you, Ollie.
So I feel like we were going to do like a theory video first, or going through your predictions to give you your tally of stars and mushrooms. But you were like, no, I don't feel like we were able to finish what I want to talk about in Egghead. So we are back in the egg, which I think is honestly good because it's a really deep arc that has a lot of thematic and symbolic importance for us to go over.
Yeah, I agree that we should go back. We should go back after we go forward.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
First of all, thank you, Haberfax. That was super meaningful and awesome. And thank you so much. Second of all, your volume is low, Drawk. His volume is always low right now.
He's doing my goddamn best. Let's bring the podcast mic way up. We have a mic right in front of me now. There we go. How's this?
All this is Drawk consumed. Where did you go, Drawk?
Oh, what? I changed it. Streamlabs, don't you fuck with me. Oh, I did. No, it's working. But why is it showing as Drawk consumed for me as well? I don't know what's happening. Guys, I don't know what's happening.
That's obvious. Hello, Dr. Jack.
I see Drawk consumed on mine as well, but Streamlabs is showing it is having changed. Oh, no, it changed. We're good. It's just, my computer was pranking me. Don't worry, we're fine. We're A-okay. We're all good in the hood.
For me, my computer is also pranking me about you.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Your computer should get good. The hype train has already started. Holy hell, thank you guys.
It's my 7-month subversary.
It's your 7-month subversary? You've been subbed for 7 months?
Yeah, I've been doing this longer than 7 months.
No, I was gonna say you've been like the star of the channel for what, 10 months?
I didn't even know about subbing when I first started because I didn't know how anything worked.
You didn't know how Twitch works. That is true.
Yeah.
I can't see notifications, guys. I'm trying so I can keep up, and the new setup is not liking having this. I want to say thanks for subbing to people.
I'm gonna put my 7-month subversary.
So it is great to be caught up. We read 1120 as a Patreon thing yesterday. It was great. 1120 is crazy.
Yeah, but I didn't have any time to go over it because we just kind of read it yesterday. And so then I started going over it and I was like, oh, bitches.
So people are asking if you're being asked to solve the One Piece right now because there's the running joke that you're going to figure it out before anyone else. Have you solved the One Piece?
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
From this minute forward, that's what's occurring.
That's the mission statement of the channel.
And no holds bar, no worried about spoilers. I'm like out there solving One Pieces.
We are. Yeah, my favorite quote from the Iron Giant is also "uh-oh." That's pretty sick. I loved when he said "uh-oh." When he said "uh-oh," there wasn't a dry eye in the theater, you know?
Yeah, it was awesome. When he said "uh-oh," I was like, good humor, buddy.
The One Piece either is or includes a library. I think that's fair to say, but we already know that the poneglyph with the world history is there and not the One Piece. So, like, you know, does a poneglyph count as a library?
Oh,
probably not.
No, it would count as something that goes in a library.
Well, it'd be part of a library. Be like a little bit of a library.
Thank you very much, Sherry.
Hello,
subscribing.
Sherry. What's up, squishies? Indeed.
And I can't read. I think it's Voltioff, but here's the problem. I'm not wearing my glasses.
Well, you say it's an unironic gentle giant. It does try to use gun hands, and just they've rusted. Like, it tries to fucking glack and glout a day.
Yeah, but would you describe Luffy as gentle?
No.
I was having that debate with myself. I was going through the different characters and saying, who would I describe as gentle? And I don't
would
know.
describe Jinbei as gentle.
Yeah, and I thought I would describe Frankie as gentle too, and they both shoot shit down and beat things up.
I don't feel like Frankie has a delicate touch when need be. Gentle, I feel like, is such a matter of personality as well. He's so brash and willing to upset status quo, whereas
But when I
Jinbei is
think
so
about them,
respectful and thoughtful. It's a gentle presence, you know?
well, I actually came to this conclusion. You
Uh-huh.
might not love it,
I'm
but
willing to hear you
here's
out.
my conclusion. All the Straw Hats are gentle. So I had a moment.
I'm against your conclusion. I fight your conclusion.
You can't yet. I haven't made it.
Yeah, go for it, but I'm fighting it.
I had this thing where I was like, what would I describe as gentle? Caring for people who are weaker than you, willing to fight on their behalf, even if you were gentle and even if you were a person who would rather, have parties go on a venture, you're the one who's willing to put your body in front of others who are being hurt. If there was an injured bird, you'd pick it up and try to heal it. If there was a kid lost, you would stop and protect it. And I just think that's all of them.
I think gentle to me comes from more of an awareness of presence and comfort. Like, gentle is this, like, they're kind. Kind and gentle to me are different. I think they're all good people. I think they're all kind people, but kind and gentle are different. To me, see gentle as something that involves a dramatic awareness of self and of the stability of the environment around you, of other people's comfort. To me, that is basically just in the Straw Hat crew. Sometimes often Chopper, because I think gentle is bedside manner. Like, I keep looking over here. The webcam is over here. I think that Chopper's often gentle because that's bedside manner. I think that Jinbei is gentle. He's an insanely respectful character. He's always thinking about other people, and their comfort and their respect, how to pay respect to people. And I think Sanji is a gentleman, and that word means what it does for a reason. And I think he tries and often fails. So he's both. No. Here's the thing. Robin comes across as gentle because she's a bookish girl who's quiet and shy at a party.
Breaking everyone's necks.
I'm telling you, the girl at the party who looks quiet and shy, but then if you bring up your favorite serial killer story, will tell you like 5 more fucked up ones you didn't know about, isn't gentle. She's an introvert. There's a difference. Robin doesn't know how to read the status quo and be like respectful of the social environment around her. She's just quiet. You can't mistake calm and gentle. She is calm. She is not gentle, because she will just bring up whatever fucked up shit pops into her head with no regard for what that means.
And yet I still disagree. I think they're gentle. I had a lot of thinking about it, and I think, wait a minute. Papa Drawk, can you please bring me the rest of the lemonade? It's very important. Desperate times, desperate measures. I think that gentle to me, like I can see both sides, but I think gentle has a different connotation to me. I don't need somebody to talk in a soft way, always walk softly, and
No. That's not what it's about.
Be that quiet, cozy person.
Yeah,
I see gentle as a very different thing, and I think that Luffy would soften himself and be what he needed to be for the situation. I just think that they all. And I know the difference between kind and gentle for me, and I think that there's a lot of kind people, but I think they all have a gentleness to them. And that's what I've decided.
Disagree, but I think it comes down to how we see that word more than actual disagreements about
the character.
Agree. So it's not really worth.
I would agree. It's about the word.
Yeah,
it's a semantic thing. But if you're gonna if you're gonna be honest, I'll hang out in semantics land all day long. I love it. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I want you to know that I now have raspberry lemonade.
I think we have just reached the point where we're definitely not convincing each other, because it is truly just we conceive of a word differently.
How we conceive of it differently.
About clover being, wait, it's cloudy clover is how they translate it? Whatever.
But isn't it Clive? His name is Clive when you look at it.
Clive. Apparently, well, Viz has decided. Viz has final say, and it's Clow.
Well, I saw that, and I was like, but wouldn't it be like Clive? Because apparently the Japanese
Irish is cleave, so they had to just decide what they were going to do with it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't give a crap. It is what it is.
Hey, you get to enter a new territory of reading a scanlation and having a debate in the fan base. And I'm going to tell you about a very famous version of this where
Okay.
Tata Curry can translate literally as either dog tooth or potato starch. And there was briefly a debate between the two groups who took themselves seriously, who were calling him either dog tooth or katakuri, and then the other people who were calling him potato starch as a fucking joke to dunk on the people translating his name as dog tooth, being like, it's our good man potato starch. Which I think
That's
was intentionally.
really.
Yeah. I think
That's
he was
really
named that.
uncool.
He was named that intentionally because potato starch can be used instead of rice starch to make mochi. So that's a pun there, but also because dogtooth sounds cool. So it's a way of having a name that
Oh,
basically
you have to
means
delete
mochi.
your art.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, goodbye, giant robo. Yeah, it was a way of having like, he's got the cool name Dogtooth, but also like his name is basically Mochi. It was meant to be a double thing, but people really wanted to call him Dogtooth instead of Katakuri for a while.
Do you want to go back to where we want to start discussing, or do you want to discuss 120 first?
I think we just go through and talk about themes and theories. That's what we're doing today. I think this is the fucking deep dive. Y'all are in it with us. That's what we're doing.
So, what chapter is my question? Do you want to start on?
I don't want to do a chapter. I don't have chapters up. I'm looking at art. I want to just like I want to talk themes because a big one I want to talk to you about that we didn't really have time for in the big discussion is you're a philosophy teacher. You've been learning philosophy to be able to teach it. What do you think about what this arc does to talk about memory, identity, the soul, and death? I think those themes are combined in a really cool way here, and that's what I want to get into.
You mean the three body problem?
Yeah. Also, I want to tell everybody. The three body problem also means the problem with trying to figure out gravity when there's more than two gravitational bodies, which is what I think of first. But yeah,
I'm just talking about philosophically.
but it's also why it's hard to solve gravity.
Yes, but I'm just talking about philosophically.
Okay. Anyways, yes, basically that. This arc is about memory, the mind, the body, the soul, life and death, what it means to be alive, what part of you remains. And I think it is philosophically absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I would agree.
There's so many themes. You're absolutely right, Cruzeiro. There's also a theme of trying to pass things down and whether or not that's accepted or rejected.
I think that he's doing like a kind of like a layered thing again that he loves to do, because we often like to see ourselves as being like, it's either yes or no. This is what he was doing. And I think Oda loves layering ideas. So they mean this, but they also mean this. So I like it because he's asking the question of society filling. So I think he's looking at kind of like a three body problem philosophically of like mind, body, spirit. And then I think that he's looking at the idea of society's falling, sentient life survival, and the progress of science destroying. And so he's kind of layering both of those in this, which I think is so fucking cool. And really starts to like this. The man pretends not to know things and plays it off in the SBS and stuff, but like the dude is a full ass genius.
I stand by that. I don't think he's being dishonest. Hear me out, right? Think about how much Eiichiro Oda works, right? And he has said that in the weeks where he's taking off work, he is always with his family because he doesn't have time while he's working, right?
Yeah.
In what world does he have time to actually be as educated as he comes across? I think the reason he acts like he doesn't know shit is because he's a very smart man who has friends that are incredibly well educated and do lots of research, basically teaching him stuff as he needs to learn it. Because I don't think there's a world where he has the time to do the level of study that's needed to write with as deep a comprehension as he writes with. So I feel like he has to have people around him That, you know how when a really smart person has people who know more than them, that they're like, no, that's a real genius because that person has done more research than them, even though you're more intelligent? That's the vibe I get. I think he probably is trying to come across like he doesn't think he knows that much because, like, to me, it comes across as there are people in his life who know more than him that he's reliant on to be able to write with as high of an intellect as he does. And I have no evidence for that beyond how much he works and how deep his references are. So I really feel like he has to have people who are supporting him in that way.
Yeah. I don't think though that he could do as much layering and interconnecting unless he had like a very good understanding of ideas and a lot to sit back on. And I also think it's the reason why he has to take weeks off is because he super invests himself in the thread of his story. Yeah,
Well, apparently
I think
the weeks
it's
off are largely health and family at this point.
yes, but that's because he invests so much of himself into the story. And so he's like, I'm going to need to take weeks off so that I can actually have my family. Because when I'm in, I'm in. Like, I think a lot of people consider a work day differently than him.
Can I bring up a small theory that I have and fully believe because of the way we write about the three-body problem in this arc?
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think Vegapunk pre-recorded the message.
Oh, carry on.
Think about it. The Vegapunk was surprised, and he talks about deducing what happened. York is confused at when he had time to record this because he seemed genuinely surprised that York was the traitor. And yet we see other Vegapunks in the message with him, but it's all the ones who have died. It's only the ones who die showing up. I think to talk about the three-body problem, we already show with the machine beasts how much of their selves, how much of their souls is still alive within this hollowed out husk. I think we're talking about the opposite, and we're showing about how much of Vegapunk is still left when the bodies have died, but the mind is still part of Punk Records. They exist within Punk Records, and they are basically making a video out of imagination right now. And here's my biggest evidence, and I haven't seen anyone talk about this for some reason. Vegapunk is like, hey, I recorded this weeks ago. I am assuming sea levels have risen. But then the three-body problem is the idea of mind, body, and soul, and when you die, and what the difference is, how much of a person can remain when one dies and the other doesn't, et cetera, et cetera. It's all that type of stuff. He brings up like, hey, evidence of taking me seriously should be if there was a big earthquake and the sea level's rising, that means I'm right, and you should listen because I recorded this before that would have happened. But then later on, he talks about how specifically much the sea levels rose by. That doesn't line up. I think that part early was a lie to get people to pay attention. The coffee, I don't think was real coffee. That it was just killing time. It was genuinely just killing time because he wanted to have time for everyone to show up, like he said. York saying he seemed surprised. It really seems like all he had time to do was plant the transponder snail inside of Emmett, which he did immediately before because we see him phasing out of the Iron Robo as Luffy arrives. So he was just doing that. So I think that I do think there's a transponder because he was inside of Emmett. We saw that. But I think the transponder is just sending an imagined video broadcast that the Vegapunks who only exist in Punk Records now are sending out.
That's interesting. So are you saying that you think that Dr. Vegapunks have been uploaded into the knowledge?
Yeah, that's kind of my thought, is that they're in Punk Records because their bodies are dead.
And therefore they exist still, they just have no body. So you're saying in the three-body problem
has no mind but has his body.
And so are you saying, and this is going to get into shit really quickly, are you saying then that it's just intelligence or it's also soul or essence of Dr. Vegapunk? I have no
idea, because we see things like how Kuma should be hollowed out, but he's still moving as though his soul is still inhabiting the body. So does the soul follow whatever's left? Does the soul go with the mind when the mind is what remains, and with the body when the body is what remains? Or is it just their mind? But I think, like, when
Exactly.
you have the opportunity to talk about punk records as this mind separate from body, you wouldn't, and memory separate from body, you wouldn't miss up an opportunity to parallel that to talking about a body without a mind. Like, you wouldn't have one in the arc and not take advantage of the other, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's why we only see the dead Vegapunks when he didn't know who the traitor would be, because they come in to join the video. And Edison only joins the video after he dies.
And it's also interesting because all the different Vegapunks are supposed to be different
Or not
aspects
Edison,
of who.
the one. Pythagoras?
Of
Pythagoras.
who. You done?
Yeah.
I don't want to ram over again. All the different Vegapunks are supposed to be different essences of who Dr. Vegapunk is. Like, Lilith and Atlas being strength, and Atlas is a really interesting one because Atlas isn't just strength of body. Atlas is strength of mind, and the deity of Atlas predates all of the Olympians, and the idea of that being Vegapunk's strength part then makes me wonder if he split himself amongst all the different numbered punks, then when they are put back inside of no, Atlas is not just aggression. Atlas is strength.
No. Atlas, the satellite, was said to be Wrath. Like, that was her title.
Yeah,
not
but
the Greek
when
god.
you look up where you look up where Atlas comes from, Atlas is
Remember,
about.
Drawk's talking about Atlas, the Greek Titan. Titan, is he? The Atlas.
Yeah, it's a Titan. And so Atlas being strength, or the strongest one, when you start to think about the way that you separate all of the parts of Vegapunk so that he's able to do his job, if all of their bodies aren't destroyed, what aspects of Vegapunk are going to be missing? And is that some aspect of soul? Is some soul kept out? Did each one of these need to have a soul? Same thing when you think about his creation of the 7 little angry dudes.
Yeah.
What aspect of them also has a soul, and where did that soul come from? But mostly with the Vegapunks, it's a really interesting question, because just putting Dr. Vegapunk in, is he the only one that holds a soul?
Or do they make a soul for them when made their bodies?
Because do they each have their own independent?
Because he talks about how Stussy's a person, even though he made Stussy. So, like, he believes that these things that he makes have souls. Now, here's something. Someone was like, oh, if this is true, the dead ones can come together in Lilith or York, since they're all the pieces of Vegapunk, blah, blah, blah. We both believe Lilith was just separated from Punk Records so that York wouldn't try to kill her.
Yeah. And so, thanks, Rins.
Do we want to get into the biblical reason that we think Lilith was separated from Punk Records and how fucking cool it is?
Yeah, so I'll start talking about it. As I was looking up what all the different names meant, because everybody knows I love doing that.
Yeah,
I was looking at Lilith,
prescient.
and I already knew, the story of Lilith in a Jewish sense, and I started to come to this idea about all of One Piece in general, which is going to get me into a different talk later on. And then I said, okay, so you've got Lilith. Lilith is known to be the equal of Adam, who came there at the exact same time, wasn't born from a half of, which is the more appropriate
than rib, yeah.
Accurate translation, not rib. Thank you, Donnie. That's awesome. But instead was born as an equal to Adam, and then was pissed later on at the way that things were being portrayed and the way that women were being subsumed by men, and said, screw you, and walked out of Eden. And so we started to think about that, and Drawk and I were talking about how Lilith then being cut off from the system by Atlas, and it's Atlas's job, and this is why I think it's so cool. Atlas's job is to keep the heavens and the earths separated. Atlas was meant to keep them separated inside mythology, and then Atlas separates Lilith from the main body of Vegapunk. So,
and here's
now,
and that gets so
cool
for me, because the fruit of knowledge, represented in modern day by an apple, because apple used to mean fruit, and thus translations get weird. the fruit of knowledge represents all possible knowledge of good and evil. Lilith sure was born evil, but was connected to all possible knowledge of good and evil. And just like Eve, just like how Lilith, unlike Eve, was separated and abandoned from the Garden of Eden without getting access to the fruit, Lilith has been cut off of Punk Records, which is represented by an apple antenna
by
of
an apple
Vegapunk.
head.
Yeah. So Lilith has been split from her connection, we believe. That we think that's what York did, that she's not dead, and that crack was severing the antenna that connected her to Punk Records so that York couldn't track her.
So now she literally reverse ate the apple. Instead of eating the apple, she shunned it.
Exactly. And Atlas being the one to separate the heavens and earth is so fucking cool, because the Garden of Eden was meant to be neither heaven nor earth. It was a thing that was neither, and Atlas is the thing casting Lilith out from this intermediary into the real earth.
Exactly. Which is just wild. The layers.
Cool. Holy fuck!
We were like, shut up. That's literally the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So, and that is why the both of us were like, well, then Lilith is literally now going to be the mother of invention. She is got, we need to find out how much knowledge does she have? What does her ability to think look like? Does she have her own soul, her own path? What's going to change in her? What kind of a person is she going to be? And she's obviously, in our opinion, still going to be very brilliant. So is she going to be the quote unquote, just like Lilith was seen as the mother of humanity, she going to be the mother of invention? It's going to be fascinating.
I love it. I also think, if I'm right, which I really believe I am, that Stella, Edison, Pythagoras, and Shaka are inside an Atlas soon, because Atlas, let's face it, about to be fucking murked.
Definitely not going to do well.
Yeah, she's already been about disarmed.
Oh God.
You can't skip that pun when you have access to it.
You can't not.
You can't skip that one. But I think it's going to be interesting, because I do think we're going to have their influence be something that can impact York in the long run. That as York is going to be betrayed and abused by the elders, which is almost certainly going to happen, she is going to have the influence of Shaka, Stella, Pythagoras, and Edison weighing on her. Yeah,
and I think that's going to be a fascinating thing. Is she going to want to be re-tapped in is another question I had. So she's been separated.
She has to be able to build the mother flame, right? Because that wasn't her
invention. That's exactly what you wonder. But will she be the same person when she's tapped in, or will she be a combination of all the things now, since she's the only quote-unquote body in the mind-body problem?
Well, and she's the only body connected to what was Vegapunk. Lilith has become fully her own person now.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. Is Lilith going to want to tap back in? Is she going to want to be a part of the main thing? Is she going to work towards it? I don't know. I think it's going to be fascinating.
There's so much interesting shit. Do you want to get into more Hebrew folklore as we talk about what's so cool about Emmet?
Yes. Do you want to? So I was looking at Emmet, because we know that the meaning of his name is truth. And there's a few other different meanings too in different places. But I think that when you look at One Piece, like it or lump it, that he has decided to make one of his major threads World War II. He just has. And as a person who has spent a lot of time in history on World War II, because it was my favorite war to study.
I found it. Someone into history, studied a lot of World War II. Crazy. Blown away.
Look, listen. Rome is still my Rome. But I loved World War II in studying.
I think World War I fan. I like when horses fight tanks. I'm not gonna lie, I like when horses fight tanks. Did you know they were really good at it? Because old tanks couldn't swivel the gun very fast, and often had to turn the entire tank.
As a statement, though, I like when horses fight tanks. It should be like
cool about World War I.
It should be a chapter title.
What's cool about World War One is that you had radical matchups of like modern industrial military tech against fucking like
Do you want
late
to
Renaissance
know
era
what's really
shit.
cool about World War One?
What?
Is how many ways Canadians found to do such terrible war crimes that they would become part of all sorts of.
I mean, we did that in World War II as well.
Yeah, Canadians are terrible people. If you look at us in war, we're just like, look, we want to get things done.
You're going to call us terrible. I think we did a ton of work out there on the field, some real boots on the ground test work, experiment stuff to figure out what to put in the Geneva Convention. It was really important research.
Canadians were like, if we do this, is that super bad? And then they were like, whoa,
no, what the fuck?
Who would even think of doing that? What have you done? Like, yeah, we were bad as shit.
Yeah.
Look up like who did most of the terrible things in the Geneva Convention, and there's Canada with a big grin on its face petting a beaver. Okay, so
I just want to clarify something interesting. Canada's not the most evil faction in World War I and II. If you look at who did the most harm to civilians, we are actually very, very low. Canada was really good to civilians in general. Generally a well-behaved army.
Excellent to civilians.
Yeah, excellent. There's so many armies in World War II that were horrific to civilians, and Canada was generally
we
really
didn't
good.
go poisoning wells back and forth inside of Tunisia.
To the point that we are celebrated. There is a day to celebrate Canada in the Netherlands because they saved them from the Nazis and were so kind about it. However, if you look at what country was worse to enemy soldiers in the most uniquely horrifying ways, it was Canada. Like, as far as
it's definitely us.
Canada was so fucked up to enemy combatants that it became a problem.
It's definitely us. We also took monarchy over to Canada and kept them safe. And I think there's a whole thing with gold, but I don't want to get in it. We don't have time. Blah, blah, blah.
We can move on. World War II. There's a lot of World War II in One Piece.
So I think that in a way, because Japanese people don't often speak about World War II, which is interesting considering Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that it's just a thing that we don't talk about. And you're not allowed to talk about comfort women, and you don't bring it up. It's a thing that you kind of try to push to the back, even though that it had major changes in absolutely everything. And then we see somebody like Dr. Vegapunk, who is clearly a combination of many scientists to a deep regret for allying with Germany. And then you see all of the people that he created out of himself and this separation of spirit and this mind-body problem where you can be more than one self. You can have a wrathful self. You can have a greedy self. You can have a pragmatic self. And all the reasons, I think that the different types of self are almost look like they are the different scientists in combination who were part of the making of the atomic bomb. And we now believe that two of the scientists in particular were responsible for slowing down while they were, quote unquote, helping Germany to build atomic weaponry. And they stayed behind in Germany and stayed in the line. And then Einstein left to be helpful on the outside, which I think is a really interesting thing, because then you kind of see him with that Einsteinian look, and he's leaving the place where he would have been working for the government, who are kind of one of the metaphors could be seen as Nazis or German. So I thought it was really interesting because Emmet meaning truth, the Jewish people put that name Emmet on the golem's head, according to the mythology. And then that meant that he was led through the world under the power of truth. And so it was called the divine power and protection of truth. Sparked a life inside Emmet. Emmet was nothing but a golem made of clay, but the word truth, because to in Judaism, names, incredibly important. Words are incredibly important. They have meaning, they hold power, they make change. And to see then that they put the name Emmet on him, this is what I read, and I read it from a bunch of different sources, and I was like, I don't even know what to do. This is just so exciting. Yeah. It said that the reason that it worked is because it made Emmet in alignment with divine will. And I was like, divine will? So this is the whole idea that being having the right will is what gives you power. The progress of your will to align with divinity, and the divinity comes through truth. And so now I'm starting to think that there is this entire thing of an alignment with a god being truth. Because when you think about Luffy, something that Luffy keeps actually fighting for time and time and time again in every arc is to free hidden lies into truth and bring the truth out into the light. Because the truth of starvation, the truth of oppression. It's constantly truth.
Let's go cooler with that, even, because we have an entire series where the world government tell everyone that they are gods, but the leaders of the world government are literally demons pretending to be gods. They are building on a lie, declaring their world as truth, while acting out a hidden agenda based off of oppression, lies, and false realities. That's so fucking cool!
The literal opposite of truth. And so now I'm starting to think that the idea that they say time and time again that Emmet was in alignment with divine will is making me think about the idea of the D being divine. And they were supposed to be the protectors. But you can also see the people of the D being like the Jewish nation, which makes, because they're scattered throughout the world, they no longer have a homeland of their own. They're everywhere. They come from everything. They don't look like each other, just like people who are Jewish don't, and people all want to make people who are Jewish the same thing. I was so thinking about that dude that we met when we did the live concert, Drawk, and his thing about being Jewish while I was reading this.
Yeah.
And so I started to think about the D being divinity. And so, because it is the divine will, the D could be divine will. And the divine will is truth, is bringing all the truth to light. And when you start to look at these last few chapters, they keep talking in a way that just makes that pop the hell off. So when you get into chapter 1120, he says right in the first couple of pages, he says, as you can see, I'm a government scientist now, blah, blah, blah. Because they're biding their time until they can wipe out all of our friends. And he said, my true name is Cloud de Clover. A person can die simply for declaring the name that they were given at birth, which is that exact same thing, because Jewish people often named other Jewish people in specific names that follow a Jewish history. And he said, the truth will come to light. It will, and then in another part, he says the truth will surface, which is obviously a whole talking about the world being flooded and pulling the truth up to the surface to get into the light of the sun. And now the light of the sun is Luffy.
I want to get into something, because you've previously brought up that you think things are going to be Haitian inspired. And I'm starting to think with this, I think we are going to see the mythologies around the D clan be based off of peoples who in modern eras have been oppressed. I think we are going to see inspiration that feels Celtic, because Celtic oppression is a huge thing in Europe.
100%.
And that's why Clover is being brought up. I think Emmet, this is the wild swing. The strong right is what made me think about this. I think Emmet is the Frankie of Joy Boy's crew. I think he was the Frankie, and we see that his entire shit is based off of Jewish mythology. I do think Joy Boy is going to be Haitian inspired, because Joy Boy is a Haitian myth.
Absolutely can be.
I think the Buccaneers are going to be Haitian-themed slaves, the genetically engineered slaves of the Lunarians, like I've said in the past. And I think all of the descendants of the D clan are going to be descendants of Joy Boy's crew. I stand by that. I think that's why it's
but I
people from all sorts of
100%
races.
agree with that. Which is why I started to think about sorry, I had a brain freeze for a minute. When I started to think about Vegapunk and why he left and why he had a little spaz at Clow, when Klaus said to him, there is a secret history whose traces are continually erased. That's all he said. That's it. There's just a secret history whose traces are continually erased. And then Vegapunk said, I will not help you with this, and I'll forget what you just said. The most I can do is tell you to be careful. And then he said, I will solve this mystery one day. The voices from the past will be heard. I just want to put out there that I think literally there will be voices from the past that have been recorded.
We talked about that.
Yeah, but these people haven't. Literally voices from the past. I think Joy Boy and or others will have been recorded on dial devices, and we will hear voices from the past. I also think there might be a song that is shared across the world, and that might be one of Luffy's ultimate goals, and that song will have in it the power of truth, which will create freedom. But then I was like, dude, you already know so much. Clearly Vegapunk knows so much. Dude said one thing about the secret history that is going to be erased, and Vegapunk was like, shut your stupid mouth. I think that while Vegapunk has been looking for meaning and power sources from the past in ancient kingdoms, he already admitted he couldn't help but stumble across things. And I think every time he does, he tries to push it back so he can work for the government. And that's that same idea as you're working for the Nazi government, but you're having to hide the truth from yourself in order to continue doing this work, in order to continue being funded, in order to continue to get to make something that you think is going to be energy that's going to save the world. And so I think we're seeing this narrative of two things taking place. And that's why when Vegapunk is like, I'm a shithead and I need to atone for all of this. That's why I think your idea is interesting, because then what does his soul look like? Where does his guilt go? Because I feel like guilt comes from soul.
I want to add, can I briefly say, because you brought up the voice of the past, the theory that I came up with during our read along?
Yeah.
I think, so I've gone on and on about how I think the ancient kingdom were the Lunarians. They were genetically engineered. They were masters of genetic engineering. They made the devil fruits. I've said all that. That's stuff I believe.
Yeah.
I decided while we were talking, because of talking about recordings, that I think the dials feel too convenient to me, and I think they were a genetically engineered, replicatable technology made by the Lunarians, and that's why they're in the sky. That is...
Yeah, when you talked about that on Patreon, I was like, I love that idea, because we also, remember, have the different wing shapes.
Yeah.
And don't talk about it, don't know why it's happening, so it super makes sense that would go up there with them and they would take it off of the planet.
Mm-hmm. So I'm adding that to my many theories about the Lunarians. I'm having so much fun that we can have discussions and agree and disagree and actually be figuring things out together. It's a blast.
Oh, it is the most fun. When people are like, what the hell is going to happen? Are you just going to do one chapter at a time? I was like, hey, yes. Do you know when I started to look at just one chapter, all the things I was able to actually do because it's a chapter? And B, how all of a sudden you and I can start debating and thinking and connecting it to all the stuff that happened before. And it's incredible. The other thing that happens within the first couple of pages, talking about the Void Century, is he says the more we study it, the more we require expertise in other fields. And that's a really big sentence, or a couple sentences that you can just read right past. You realize, I did too the first reading. And when I read it this time, I was like, holy shit, that's earth-rending. That's him talking about the Void Century is a combination of history, geology, dimensions, religion, devil fruit, Dimension Piece. It's a combination of so many different fields that you need experts in, because it took so much to hide the truth, to create a new world we're living in, to change the world.
No, this makes so much goddamn sense. If Dimension Piece is true and the Uranus is locking things in a pocket dimension, you would need to know about that shit. If Devil Fruits and Lunarians and Buccaneers, I'm right about all of that, you need to know about fucking genetic engineering. If you're right that the red line was artificially created to change the geography of the landscape, you do need someone who knows about geography. So they wouldn't have
geography and geology.
They wouldn't have enough. Holy fuck.
Yes.
No. Vegapunk built an island where he brought experts of every field together and then
Yes.
took their information into Punk Records. He built an island right as soon as he was able to, where the whole goal was bringing together experts of every field so that he could cross-pollinate and cross-check information. And he has the ability to store all of that info on the island. Holy
Exactly.
fuck.
And that's what I'm saying. So when I read that, I was like, this is such a huge implication. And we just read ahead it. He hides shit in such plain sight. That line is brilliantly placed because it's the third panel you read. You don't even really think about it. You're just like, oh, moving on. As you can see, I'm a government scientist now. I cannot give you any data. Wait, pardon me? The more we study, the more it requires expertise in other fields. And I can't give you any data also implies I know the type of data you need. I've already seen things and I ain't giving it to you.
Okay, someone just pointed out that Pudding could probably edit the memories of Punk Records, and that's fucking wild to think about.
Oh, that is fucking wild to think about. Let's keep putting away from here.
Pudding, you
Although
were
I
not
do
allowed on
think
Egghead fucking Island, girl. Get away.
I do think we are gonna see Pudding come back and fight on the side of goodness and maybe even become part of, like, I don't know, an armada. Because I think she's gonna come fully into her own and realize just how damn dangerous her mother was and how much the world needs help. And she's going to be like, after the stuff with Sanji, I feel like I've seen what it looks like to be on the side of right.
I mean, we both agree that Katakuri is going to change as a person and take over, right? So that makes sense.
Yes, 100%. So she's with Blackbeard now.
Yeah, Blackbeard
but
stole
dude
her
is
and she's yelling at him all the time, like, you fuckheads, my mom's still alive and she's gonna kick your ass. And Blackbeard's like, I don't know, maybe. I'm gonna fight this guy with a seal hat. Say huh.
Yeah, you definitely should voice that character.
Yeah, they should hire me. When it comes time to make the One Piece and we reach wait, this is my audition for when they reach Jaya. Someone aiming for the top shouldn't worry about small fry, straw hat.
It's not the worst, but it sure is weird.
This is me, Marshall D. Teach.
I think that honestly, Vegapunk is more than just a combination of those ones. I started to look at the scientists who mostly oppressed German technologies, and there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were, well, besides Einstein, like you've got Werner Heisenberg, Wernher von Braun, Albert Speer, Otto Hahn, Kurt Debner, Walter Dornberger. Like you've got a bunch of scientists who we now are looking at. We're saying it's super, Herbert York. We're super saying that these people, it looked like, actually worked against the Nazis and were dragging their feet on creating weaponry. And so we do say too, like, I love the idea that then he embodies the Einstein
Herbert
when he
York?
pisses off. Pardon?
Herbert York, you said?
No.
No? Okay. Well, someone brought up Herbert
Albert
York
Speer,
in chat.
Otto Hahn,
Who's
Kurt
Herbert York?
Deibner.
Someone brought up Herbert York in chat. There's a lady named York who's joining the bad guys. We must understand this.
Herbert York.
Who is this?
He was a nuclear physicist in the United States.
People are saying it's a myth. Well, that sucks. You know what? We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's a historical myth, Oda could still use it as inspiration, but yeah.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Look, I think York being a double agent is not York's intention, but I could absolutely see a world where Shaka, Edison, Pythagoras, and Stella from within Punk Records begin to pull at York's empathy and heartstrings and make her start to sabotage their products. I think that could happen. Do I think York intends to sabotage? No. It was Angle
Yes,
Simp.
it was Angle.
Angle Simp, that is a name.
Okay, so that's why when I looked at that, I was like, we need to pay more attention to that, because to me, when Clover says that, Clover is confirming the idea of everything from the needs of geology and geography and history to dimensions, right? Like, he is confirming every single time we uncover information, what we really do is get stalled because we don't have experts in all the different fields it's going to take to unravel this mystery, which says that it is this massive group effort from all these different areas, and that it is layered and complicated, which of course it's layered and complicated. And it's upsetting to think how many people like to think of it as just like this singular simple event when we're in a story at chapter 1120. Like, no, it's going to be complicated as shit.
Guys,
and I'm so excited for it.
I also want to say, people are saying that York needs something else to satisfy her greed. Okay. I stand by that this is not the way you should read this, but I like to go off of vibes, and the idea of, in a Japanese story, a character personified by greed, learning the lesson that personal relationships and being loved satisfies greed more than things, is a very common trope that I think I could see happening. I think at this moment, York is just bad, but I think that having all of those voices of goodness in her head, separate from all of the dark parts of Vegapunk, I think York could absolutely come to understand that human connection is a more valuable thing to own. Full Metal Alchemist is one of them, but I have seen it in other things, other Japanese media, of the idea of someone or something embodied by greed. A big one is Dr. Stone. Like, there's a character embodied by greed who comes to realize that human connection matters more than things. Or actually, he realizes that right away. He just doesn't talk about it until near the end. But that is a very common thing in anime, so I absolutely could see this happening.
You know what's really interesting? The Mother Flame, because somebody asked about the Mother Flame, and I just went through my notes to look at it. So sorry, I wasn't listening well. I was being a bad partner.
I mean, it's good, because eventually we're going to be reading Full Metal Alchemist, and you don't get a spoiler.
I didn't get any spoiler. I was busy being a bad partner.
So you did great.
Well done. Way to zone out and not listen. You showed some excellent skills. Okay, so in an origin story of the Mother Flame, says that there was a great void filled with darkness and chaos, and from the darkness and chaos emerged the Mother Flame, an eternal and divine fire.
That exists in mythology?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
In mythology, an eternal and divine fire that brought light and order to the universe. The Mother Flame is believed to be the primordial source of all creation, giving birth to the sun, the stars, and every spark of life.
What mythology is that?
Let me look up. Because I think Greek, but I'm going to make sure. So I love it because it also has that like Amaterasu origin. And so many other things. So let's see. Oh my God. What? Here's a better question, Drawk. Yeah. What mythology isn't it?
I mean, sun gods, the sun is fission. So relating the idea of sun god mythology to nuclear fire as a power source is so fucking good. Especially in an arc about the Garden of Eden being represented by... Oh my God. Holy fuck! Vegapunk split himself into equal parts man and woman.
Yeah. Yes.
Vegapunk himself is the tree of knowledge and split himself equal into man and woman. And the one named Lilith leaves, split off from knowledge. But a woman
and takes off from all of it.
But a woman tempted by greed who wanted to know true pleasure is the one who owns the fruit and is condemned to the world for it. Holy shit. And was tricked into it by demons. What the fuck?
And that is so fucking perfect.
What the fuck?
Okay, and now the Mother Flame takes...
You're right, sun is fusion.
Fission. The Mother Flame takes origins from Greek, Hindu, Norse, Zoroastrianism, and is also Zoroastrianism, which I always mispronounce.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I'm not going to make you take another swing at that one because you're on strike 3, and I just watch you swing on some real bad pitches. So let's just keep moving.
Zoroastrianism.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, but on the
Be
way
quiet.
in,
Let
you
me
struck
finish
out.
this. It's a synthesizing of a bunch of other different elements as well. And it says tons of other cultures throughout time have had an idea of a mother flame. And a mother flame is that really awesome idea in universal creation of kind of like that big bang. And it is like that central moment of all creation anyways. So I think that the mother flame is literally like a million, trillion, billion% going to be the breadth of all creation and the thing that created void, but it is something that came prior to the void century. It was just used against the people. And now that the mother flame is in existence again, now we have to ask that, shit, how are we getting the mother flame off?
And the mother flame for now is, I think, going to be owned by the world government. It's floating in a tank right now.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just starting to think like, all right, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to save the mother flame? Because you can't, like, moving that mother flame is going to be... What if Luffy eats it? Luffy doesn't eat that type of shit. That would be Wapple, and then Drawk would get his greatest joy ever, where Wapple eats the mother flame.
People keep talking about what if Luffy eats it, and that's how he stops needing to charge up all the time, and I think that is kind of cute because he's a son, but also I don't see it happening, but if it does, I won't be shocked. It's a common theory right now that Luffy will eat the mother flame at some point.
Yeah, no. It's that just feels right and wrong, because if you're talking about a person who's writing it from just a Japanese perspective,
guys.
And you have Luffy, was it done? And you have Luffy come from Amaterasu, and he's a center of being a sun god. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cheesy, but I was going to say that. What if Wapple eats Luffy and the mother flame and spits them out as supercharged Luffy?
Yeah, I already just said the only way that actually makes sense is if Wapple ate it. But Wapple could eat them both, yes.
And then makes a super Luffy.
I would hate that so much.
I would love it so much. I'm Team Wapple now. Your Wapple.
You're always Team Wapple. How dare you say you're Team Wapple now when we know you have always been Team Wapple?
I mean,
just to get back, Dr. Jax.
Ironically, Team Wapple. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Jax, we are going to do an actual stream about eggs. We're going to have an egg stream. Because egg is everywhere.
Oh, the egg is everywhere. We have Egghead Island. We have egg on Roger's boat. We have Baron Tamago.
Egg is used everywhere. I asked
Sanji.
I went on a
we have Baron Tamago.
Egg is used everywhere. I asked
Sanji.
I went on a deep dive looking at all the references to egg in One Piece, and it actually got wild. It got to the point where I was like, no, this deserves a show. And I keep hoping that there's going to be some sort of eggy event or eggy thing going on in Laugh Tale, which I still want to call Laugh Tale because that's what I guessed it would be called. And every time I go to say it, I go to say that.
Laugh Town was your guess.
Yeah, Laugh Town. Yeah.
Guys, it turns out I don't know how to draw robots that well, so we're just going to do what we can.
What are you talking about? That's a great picture of my good boy Iron Giant.
Robots are hard to draw. Oh, his grill has open bottom with grills.
Also, he's a robot, not a robot. And I want him to have his name Emmett along his hat.
He's not going to have Emmett on his hat. Although, wait.
Because the way that they stopped Emmett is by erasing one of the letters.
No. And because you brought that up, I need to show you a dumb thing.
Okay.
I was designing NPC bad guys for my game, and I came up with Goon because he's a hockey goon, but also like a goon for a mob. It's a fun joke, but look at his helmet. Look at his dumb little helmet.
Did you make him Hawkeye?
No, it's Hockey. He's a hockey helmet.
Hockey, you're the worst. That's amazing.
I love it. All right, we can move on. That bit made me unreasonably happy when I drew it on stream. I was so fucking.
It's so good that you gave like a nod to Oda and One Piece in such a weird way.
I didn't.
You did though, because hockey
helmet.
But
Yeah,
hockey.
because he's a hockey player.
But hockey.
I'm just referencing the sport hockey. It's a
But
real
also
thing that exists.
But also the way that you wrote it, and therefore the way that it
That
seems
does
is
look a little
hockey.
bit more like hockey, yes.
Exactly. So bite me. Anyways, you know what else was really interesting in chapter 1120, or as I'm just going to call it from now on, 20, is that he also said when he goes there. So we now know for sure that Dr. Vegapunk was the one who got in touch with the giants and told them to come to O'Hara and get the books.
Yeah.
Because he's
Clover
standing
was
there
his friend.
staring. Yeah, he's standing there staring into the pond, looking at all the books there. And he says, I'm just going to go to that page. There we go. And he says, surely you had time to escape, Clover, as he's looking down over this deep pond just stacked. And then he gets closer and we see some of the book names. I wish we could actually look at the book names. He wrote real things on this one in particular, and I would love somebody to use good decoding and clarify it. But then he said, did all of you die just to preserve this vast store of texts for the future? It's preposterous. What lunatic would dare risk certain death to continue their research?
I love that he says that judgmentally, but he takes their will. He inherits their will.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. He inherits their will in that moment. It's foreshadowing that he is going to become the lunatic who risks certain death.
Guys, he inherited the will of the tree of knowledge and became the fruit of knowledge. Holy fuck.
Oh, he super did.
He is the fruit of knowledge that came from
so
the tree
him
by
being
inheriting
an apple
their
now.
will. What the fuck?
And also, there's also something about him moving from an egghead. And eggs are supposed to be one of their symbols is new beginnings and change. And the egg then hatches into an apple when he inherits the will of O'Hara. Dude, and gets the tree of knowledge.
I'm so torn because I've wanted our YouTube videos to not surpass where we are in the story in our read through on YouTube, but this one might need to come out early because we're fucking cooking today. I agree. I think this needs to come out before the community gets these ideas separately because holy fuck are we cooking, man.
Well, we could literally just call this one all spoilers. Don't watch unless you're caught. Because when I saw him go there and I was like, okay, he goes there. He's still an egghead when he gets to O'Hara. He says to them, what lunatic would dare risk certain death to continue this research? Then the immediate thing that he does is contact the giants. Because why did he contact the giants? Because dude already knew. Dude already knew what was happening. He had already done the research. He wasn't saying it out loud. He was trying to super hide the knowledge that he was collecting, but he knew a bunch of the information of the Void Century. And he knew the giants had past history. Let me just finish this. And that the giants' religion and the giants' ideologies meant they would be the perfect person for this because they are the ones that still talk about and know and spread the stories along with the Buccaneers. So he calls the giants who are big enough to move them all, who are knowledgeable enough, and who can protect them. And they come and take the knowledge, and then what does he do? He takes that knowledge from them. So he burst forth from being an egg, and he hatches into a tree of knowledge from that area.
Someone's pointing out that he couldn't have been the one that called the giants because they were already there when Vegapunk showed up. We saw in another flashback.
Oh, we saw in the other post. Yeah. How do we know, though, that he didn't call them when he was going there? All we're seeing is this.
He was like, who's stealing all this? And Dragon was like, yeah, don't worry.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
But I think that he then reads all these pieces and he hatches his knowledge and chooses to change sides. And then we had this amazing foreshadowing where he now is willing to choose certain death to continue the research. But then what you said, Drawk, changes that. Because maybe he learned a lesson from Clover and said, no, screw that. I'm not going to have certain death. I'm going to have the ability to upload. If I can separate my mind into different bodies, If the
Yeah.
mind and the soul and the bodies are different things, I'm going to make it so that I can continue to live within the knowledge. I'm going to upload knowledge. I'm going to create a new tree of life that can't be destroyed. And I will be a part of it.
I truly do believe that he in there and that wasn't a pre-recorded video. That being said, I don't. No, either way, I think he still was willing to risk life and death. Like, I think he still inherited the will. He just was more careful.
I think he did. He was willing to risk life and death. 100%.
Where like he was.
He inherited the will, and he decided I can do it better. It doesn't mean I want to die. Just like Luffy doesn't want to die. It just means that I am willing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it said who would risk, and that's what he's doing. He's not trying to die. He's risking it.
Yep. I love this. This is so good, guys. Holy shit. What else do we have to talk about?
Oh, I have so many more notes.
What do we think the Buccaneer's secret power is? That is that Vegapunk thinks is allowing him to keep moving.
Just a minute.
You know what's fun? Any art I do now is going to be proven wrong eventually because I have to guess the colors.
The color of the worm is brown.
I was going to do a red belly.
Oh, I love that for us.
I was going to do black with a red belly.
Okay. No. There's some things that I don't know if we should talk about yet.
Such as?
No, I decided no. Okay.
Dude, we are fucking cooking today, though. This arc is so thematically rich and deep, man. It's crazy.
Well, when I started... Sorry, go ahead.
I felt certain that, like, Onigashima was my favorite arc. I was like, yeah, it's fantastic. Unless this arc gets much, much worse at the end, this is my new favorite. It has everything. It has the most compelling flashback in the series for me. We see the entire world. The Straw Hats are the big deals, and yet One Piece still feels like One Piece. Like, it's fucking firing on all cylinders. There's no misses. Like, it's just brilliant. And the themes have never felt as rich. I felt like he would never write an arc that felt as thematically full and rich as Fishman Island. I was fucking wrong. The symbolism here is fucking incredible, and every time we have a revelation about how it connects, I get more and more ecstatic.
And I love how layered all of the different mythologies are in it, because I also started to think about the flood mythology, because you can't ignore the flood mythology. And flood mythology is global, P.S. It's not just there. We have flood mythology in the place that I live, where they talk about a giant canoe and what mountain that it was anchored to. And so I started to think about how the people in the government who are actually demons saw themselves as being gods. And that it was, in my opinion, them who have flooded the world the last time. And how are you gonna? How are you gonna flood the world?
Has been doing a series on the Chinese flood myth.
Oh yeah,
it's very interesting.
I can see that.
It involves an emperor who's was tasked, or a man who was, I think it was an emperor, it was a man. It was some guy tasked by the gods to fix the flood, who tried to do it the wrong way, and then his son did it through hard work, and fortune worked out in his favor because he was doing it the right way, and he was able to follow on his father's failure and save the world from the flood. It's interesting. I don't remember the details. I feel like I haven't heard a single flood myth yet that feels like it cleanly lines up with One Piece enough to be used for theorizing, honestly.
Whereas I think that he would just use a bunch of different layered flood myths. I think
that's likely what it is. I feel like it can't be one flood myth because, like, they don't seem to quite exactly line up.
Especially when you consider that why floods actually happen, and most likely the events happened because the majority of Canada and some of the United States had an inland sea that eventually flew out after the ice flow at the top was breached, and the entire world would have been completely changed
Yeah.
instantly. And everyone
Humanity
living on the
has
edge would be dead.
humanity has dealt with a flood that was severe enough that all humans would come from a culture that has a long distant verbal memory of a great flood.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the great
It's a
flood is
global
everything.
memory. So
It
they're going to be global myth. Except for
interesting to think about.
a lot of Canada and the US, they have like kind of a two-sided flood myth there, because we also had continental rebound. This is what I'm talking about when I was looking at Clover, saying the more we know, the more we need experts in those areas, right? Because there was a continental rebound that occurred for us because all of the water left us. And so when that happened, we went from being kind of pushed right down underneath to whoop and bouncing up. So yeah, we were flooded, but not nearly at the extreme rate that the rest of the world was. This person wants you to know, Pant.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to call you now, Pant, that you drew a penis.
I did not actually. And you're a liar, and I don't appreciate being lied to.
Oh, there you go. Now you know.
Sorry.
I'm loving what you're doing, by the way, in the Iron Giant.
We're trying something.
Okay, so it has the Chinese flood myth with the hero, but then we have the Aboriginal Australian flood myth, involving a deluge that reshapes the landscape. And you would have had deluge.
I would be really hesitant to read into something like that because, like, it's such a little known myth that it feels like it'd be ignored. But Oda's using Haitian mythology, and it appears to be specifically for the Void Century, drawing on the mythologies of the oppressed. So, like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it makes it feel more worth looking into something like Aborigines or First Nations mythologies because Oda is drawing on oppressed populations. And I think because of that, we are going to see things like Aboriginal or Aborigines myth at some point. Because in these recent chapters, we are seeing Haitian mythology, like you pointed out, a Jewish mythology, like you pointed out, and a hint towards Celtic. So it feels like we kind of have to at some point be talking about other oppressed groups. Like, that's where the D clan's coming from.
Yeah, and I think that he's kind of just using all of the oppressed groups, but they were also supposed to be the protectors, right? I was thinking, if I was writing this story, why would I make all the kings of only 20 countries come together? Who are they coming together against?
I think they were coming together against the Lunarians, and they thought they were the good guys who were going to free humanity from the oppression of the Lunarians. And
but I think it's more than just the Lunarians, or they wouldn't want to kill all the D's who were protecting, and the D's wouldn't only be protecting the Lunarians.
Well, my thinking is they were all separate factions at the time, that the D's were separate, and the D's represented freedom. So when the 20 kingdoms became the new hegemon, the D's became their enemy because they represented freedom. They went from being their allies. But it's also
interesting when you consider that a bunch of nations didn't join the 20 kings.
True. But all the ones that did seem to be human nations, and we know that one of them were allied with the D's, so I think they were oppressed by the Lunarians. That's why they sided with or the D clan sided with them, because they seek freedom. But then most of them didn't want to just be free. They wanted to be the new ruler. They wanted to be the new one on top.
But then that would imply that the D's all came from an original place together.
I don't think they did. I think you know how we've been talking about how all of these kingdoms are bowing to Luffy without being part of the same contiguous nation, and how Luffy is their king without asking? I think Joy Boy was a king of pirates in the same way, that nations from across the world swore themselves to him because he brought them freedom. I think Alabasta was one of them, and Alabasta also was invited to be one of the human nations to bring the fight to this oppressive force.
Which is why I'm asking if it's possible that the D's are all descendants of this divinity that come from Joy Boy. If the D's were created in Joy Boy's time, or if the D's already existed.
I think they are the descendants of Joy Boy's crew. That's my thought on them. I think
Armada, because that's not just a crew.
I think it's the crew. I think it's the crew specifically, because I think Armada might be.
Then how big are the crew?
How big are the crew? Well, think about it.
Are you thinking of it?
I'm thinking of it like a 10, 11 person crew that has passed descendants on through the ages.
Maybe. I like the idea of Dawn Pirates.
Yeah, and I think
Dance.
Vivi, I think Lily, the reason she had the D in her name is she was like Vivi, where she was a princess, but who briefly traveled with and joined Joy Boy's crew.
It could be.
That
I think that there's still more to it because
I think there
remember,
is too, but I feel
I
it
think
just
there is a
feels like it lines
completely
up.
lost. I think there's a completely lost land. I think we're going to find a land
I do agree.
inside of a dimension, and I think that it could even be possible that that laugh tail is in another dimension, and that's why we can't find it.
Mention
But there is a
piece.
lost land, and I'm thinking that's where we're going to find out origin of D.
I agree that there's more to it, but when I look at what the theory I've laid out, it really feels like I can't. It stress tests well, you know? Like there's nowhere it
Yeah,
doesn't fit the story to me. And I find
yeah.
most theories need like you look at a retcon you need, and this one of like I've been mulling on this for a while, and the reason I came to this theory was because he used a term that could be translated as the allied powers for the group that the world government used to be, which makes me feel like because of all the World War II imagery, I feel like he wouldn't make them just the bad guys, but he could make them people who are fighting an oppressive evil, but who then became the global hegemon of oppression.
The reason that I kind of like that narrative is because if you look at Japan, who was Axis, and then they become who Japan is today, and the way they are is that he would be talking about over time that it's too simplistic to look at a nation and determine good or evil, and that he's made it clear by looking at government and all of our navy, all of our pirates, that good and evil come just by person, not by position, not by kingdom, by individual. And so because of that,
yes,
I could see it.
And I think that Lily joined the world government of allied powers because it seemed like the right move to fight oppression. And it also leads into, I think, the more I think about it, the more it feels right to me that Blackbeard wants to be king of the world. He wants to be the new Emu. He wants to be a proper country. I think that Emu was like Blackbeard in the past and was a being that wanted to. I think there's more to it than that. I think there's information we're missing to make this fully fit. But I think he
100%.
was like Blackbeard in the past and was a member of the 20 nations, but one who had previously been a pirate, perhaps, and then ended up in charge of the world. But I think there's a little complication to it. I also think Dawn Pirates. Yes, Dawn Pirates seems fitting. That makes so much sense. That Joy Boy's crew could be called the Dawn Pirates.
Well, because
Thus
of
his crew's
romance.
descendants. Yes.
Romance Dawn.
And the dawn of the world. So thus his crew carries the D for Dawn as their middle initial.
And also it makes sense if you're thinking about the fact that they're saying that the will of D is strong. And I'm saying that in Jewish mythology that the that the divine will is passed on through people, and being in truth and power means divine will. So that would make sense too. The dawn of truth.
This is all fascinating.
The light.
Dude. This is so interesting. Holy shit.
I love how much he not only is embedding so much history and psychology and philosophy, but different people's religions as well. And I just think,
without devaluing the meaning of any of them too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I like how he's making it so that it's an anyone story. That he's like, Luffy is from here, and this person is from here, and this is a story for anyone from anywhere. Oh, I love it. When I was looking at it earlier and realizing just how much of World War II he was putting in here, and how he had threaded it all throughout, and how I could go into I could do an episode or 7 where all we did is link the thread of World War II through this, because there is a timeline.
World War II.
There is a timeline. He's working through it, and this is why I started to think about it. He is working through the war. When you look at the events that are happening, you can see a pattern of how he's working through the war.
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Because where are we right now? We're about to have a giant explosion. We're coming up to nuclear. And we're right near the end of the story.
And then we have moments like, I think all of post time skip. I think pre time skip was largely about like the type of world where that's possible. And post time skip, we have things like we've been talking about it this whole time. Holy fuck, you're right. I've never put this together, but you're so right. We have Hody Jones, who represents the growing resentment and of racial supremacy,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
animus of young, angry men who feel displaced.
Yes.
Then we move on to Punk Hazard and see the development of greedy scientists and weapon developers who are sacrificing
And when they
human
keep their
goodness for
information
profit.
to create weaponry over humanity and ethics.
Then we see a fascist ruler having taken over with Doflamingo. We've said before,
And
he doesn't fit the definition of fascist, but he fits the definition of fascist social values.
yes.
He represents the social values of a fascist. Then we see Zhao, and we see the imperialism of developed nations. We see the building coalition between Kaido, who we see as Maoist. I'm not an expert on Maoism, but people I know who know it better than me say he fits very well for Maoist communism. And then Big Mom, who we think represents neoliberalism as growing forces compared to the budding fascist power of the world government.
There's so much more to it, though, Drawk. I started to create massive notes about it, and about how even in pre-time skip, how we're showing the different politics of each one of the areas, and how slowly we have this heating up of a world temperature and resource management and hidden people and governments overstepping their boundaries. And because there's only one government, and then there's pirates, we can see that as being two different fractions of access, of ally and axis. And if you go right back to the beginning, I think that if you and I did a nothing but one entire talk on how One Piece is a thread of World War II and tells the story of World War II, there's so much more. Because like I said, just because it's doing that doesn't mean it's not doing all this other stuff at the same time.
So that's what's crazy about One Piece, is like it's not just doing all this symbolism, the politics, the philosophy, but that through all of this, there is characterization, both subtle and indirect and direct and spoken. There are backstories that tie together. There is the cohesive story of a world where all of the pieces and motivations line up. There are multiple power systems that represent the values that Oda believes link to success. Somehow this man is balancing all of these things on a people. I think it is so easy to underestimate the caliber of writing here, because there are other great shonen stories that tell a story just as well. I think Oda's storytelling abilities are phenomenal, but they're not unheard of in the world of great writers. What I think is truly unheard of is someone balancing that with this incredibly layered political, historical, mythological, symbolic, thematic, philosophical analysis. All of it is blended together in this perfect synthesis, and none of them detract from each other.
Yeah. And at the same time, he's also balancing it with current information that's going on in the world. And then he's putting in humor. Because I always think about the way that Oscar Wilde said, if you want to tell somebody the truth, do it with humor or they'll kill you. And that feels exactly what Oda decided to do. He decided to say to himself, like, okay, let me tell you a story that is World War II's kind of from beginning to end. It ends up being the story of World War II, while at the same time making you laugh your ass off and putting in all sorts of pertinent social information that you will have seen in your lifetime. Like, how about Eminem, including members of the Rolling Stones, including Japanese famous people. So you've got like things like just modern culture, and then ideas of environmental destruction, and then you have all these other like miniature stories within the story. But I'm telling you, to me, One Piece thematically goes through World War II, and we're coming up to our nuclear event.
I think that this is all so interesting. I am fucking thrilled to see where this goes from here. I feel like we fucking cooked today. This is this is great. Holy shit.
And there are, just to be clear too, an interesting thing is there were like 20 nations that were most involved in World War II.
Interesting. Oh man,
and so I think that makes it an even more interesting thing. Like, how do you talk about something in plain sight? This is how you talk about something in plain sight.
It's so rich and deep and fulfilling, you know?
And to do something this modern and interesting while also creating so many opportunities for like deep, rich mythos of like every nation possible. Oh God,
And then
just
just
the
on
sweet,
top of it
sweet
all,
science of writing.
on top of it all,
The sweet,
just
sweet.
telling a great story while you're doing all
Yes.
that. Like, like all of this, and then you're also just telling a good story where you can engage with none of this and be so fulfilled by what you're reading.
Yeah, you don't have to feel the same way that we feel. You don't
Yeah.
have to go into this layers and think like, oh, it's this, and you can just read the damn thing right on the top.
And it's still
And
great.
so I think you and I should go through it because I've started to create notes on my cork board when I was reading this, and I was like, okay, so this is Judaism. These are Jewish myths and ethos. This is this. This is Lilith. That's a Jewish, this is this. And I was like, God damn it. Then we have a giant mother flame, which has the possibility of power of that strength. That feels a lot like atomic. And then I started to think about my very favorite chapter so far, which was Impelled Down. Up until I came into Wano, I would say Impelled Down, because I love the way that he did Impelled Down. I love the secret within the obvious. I love creating a heaven within a hell. I love everything he did in that line.
Yeah, Impelled Down
but I started.
it worked for you hard.
Oh, I loved it. But when I started to think about Impelled Down and what part of the war that was, I was like, how far away ago was that? And what was taking place in World War II when that was happening? And I started to put notes on the cork board, and I was like, God damn it. He is telling the linear story of World War II.
I feel like Impelled Down to me feels like the war hasn't started yet and Germany is cracking down on degeneracy, is my read on Impelled Down.
Oh, for me, the war has started in small ways. He's gone out and he is declaring against different countries closer to him and
like
pulling
Poland.
Jewish people in and just starting to crack down in those ways, but hasn't started killing all the people within his own country. 100%.
Okay.
But all the stuff before that is still part of World War II. It's just what's happening prior to that.
Yeah, it's part of the history of the war. I love this shit. I'm so excited. We bounce around so much between like thematic analysis, prediction, parallelism with history and parallelism with mythology, and also just like some fucking cooking theories. Dude, I'm almost tempted to say like you put enough theory into this one alone that I think maybe like Dr. Jack, you're the one who suggested it. Do you feel like Mama has earned the right to be freed and listen to theories? Because I kind of do. Like, I feel like we have enough of a basis of what Mama Drawk's theory scope, unaffected by other theorists, looks like, and we can start comparing to other theories, other theorists now.
Yes, let me free. I want to watch all the thing.
Dr. Jax who suggested it, and I feel like he was right, but I think it should be open season, and I really want to tell you, before you get into a video I'm going to recommend, what a theory I've seen that I love for what the One Piece is.
Free Mama movement is gaining traction. One of the other things that I was thinking,
Dr. Jack
I would say
agrees,
so.
And he's the most hesitant.
Thank you, Dr. Jack. I appreciate your hesitant, reluctant releasing. I was thinking also when I was watching this part, that Luffy is kind of the spirit of everyone. We know that he is the version of the oppression of all people. But then I was like, why is he saying Luffy is Brazilian?
Okay.
So I just think it's interesting because okay, so we know that lots of people from sorry, I'm having a think about something else at the same time. My brain is like, ooh, let's think about this. Big shiny tunes. We know that lots of the people from World War II who escaped to Chile, but they also escaped, some of them, to Brazil.
Should I? I want to tell my funny story in a bit, but yeah.
Go ahead, tell it now, because then that'll give me 2 seconds.
Okay. Funny story. When I was a kid, everybody, I had a teacher who was from rural Brazil, and she taught us about the rainforest all the time. And I would come home and tell my parents about how exciting it was to have my teacher from Brazil teach me about the Amazon, and I loved it. I loved all her lessons. I loved learning about all the cool things in the jungle. And then my parents came in for a parent-teacher conference, and I only thought back on this as an adult when I was like 27. I called my mom and was like, "Hey, I just thought of something." My parents hear me talking about my teacher from rural Brazil, the middle of the jungle, and they come in and see a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes.
We were like,
I gotta tell you, there are
okay.
white people in Brazil. If there is a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes from the Brazilian jungle, that is the granddaughter of an escaped Nazi. There's no other earthly explanation. Rural Brazil is so different than just being from like Rio de Janeiro when it comes to that shit.
I was like, you're from where? It was the funniest freaking thing ever, because you were just like, and she's so knowledgeable and she's Brazilian. And then when I came in and saw her, I was like, okay. Dr. Jax is asking me if he could say hi to me again, because I sent this message to the people I was going to watch on our Discord channel. People made, who did it? Was it Red Potato and who else?
Guys, I kind of love how this looks, by the way. I don't remember anything.
Well, a bunch of our humans made a platform to watch the latest show on Discord.
Oh yeah, people want to do. A lot of people in our chat our Discord want to start doing watch parties for new episodes, which I'm totally on board with. I'm often not going to be able to join, but absolutely, our mods can use the community stage to host watch parties for new episodes. That's so cool.
So Dr. Jack and Red Potato were hosting stages for people to watch the last episode, and I went on to watch it with them. And I had it on my iPad, and I turned my iPad on and was heading out the door with the dogs. I decided to take them for a pee while I headed out the door, and then watched it and was trying to catch 2 squirrels with 1 nut. But instead what occurred is I got outside and there was a deer, and my big dog tried to pull my shoulder out, and my little dog actually managed to escape while Dr. Jax was on there going, "Hello, can you hear me, Mama? Are you there?" And I was trying to fuddle around, and while I was fuddling around, I dropped the Pomeranian. And the Pomeranian ran into the bush, chasing a giant deer through the woods with his leash bouncing off all of the boulders and trees. And then I ran down the road like a lunatic, trying to chase after him with our big dog. And I looked like a madwoman screaming his name, because he's deaf, so you have to scream really loud. And I said to my husband, I must look like an incredible asshole. And then he's like, "I'll let you know." And then he went and watched the security footage. And then he comes back and he's like, "Oh wow, you look hilarious. That was funny." I spent a long time running through the bushes trying to get a Pomeranian to stop trying to take down a deer. Jack really thinks he bit the moose's leg.
And then
he saved me from that moose.
Across the snow.
The moose didn't so much kick him as like try to kick him, but Jack was on his leg, so Jack just went flying through the air and landed in a snowbank. But then he got back up and chased the moose out of our yard. I am not going to post that security footage. I am super not. Everybody was like, "Show the security." Okay. No,
we were talking about going through World War II at some point before I got sidetracked about because Brazil.
But okay, so Brazil, it made me think about how often we only think of the major players of World War II. We only think of World War II. I mean, most of the world doesn't even think of Canada, even though Canada, anyone who's seen the Geneva Convention will think of Canada.
Was more participatory than our GDP and population should have allowed.
It was wild how much of Canada fought and fixed, and we were everything from doctors and nurses to on-ground troops. We were everywhere, and was used. I mean, I always like to think about how we were used badly in Dieppe as a way of measuring the firepower of the Axis forces.
I mean,
Anyways,
granted, it was supposed to be a real attack until the Germans cracked our code, and we didn't want them to
do
know.
you know how many people I've had rewrite D-Up? How many grade 12s in history I've given all of the different, like, how many ships were available, where were they, who were the commanding officers available, what people were available, and all of them have come up with a better plan without giving away that our code was cracked. Okay.
Yep.
So, well, all of them except one kid who had the most unhinged plan in the history of ever, but we won't get into that. But then what we don't think about is we don't think about how many other countries were fighting. Like, Brazil was a major player in World War II, but just in the way that they could. They were part of the alliance with our allies. They didn't join until 1942. They had expeditionary forces, air force contributions, economic and military support, post-war help. Like, Brazil was deeply involved. And so were so many other countries that don't get to share that their history in World War II kind of gets downplayed or unthought about. And I was thinking, like, how perfect is it for a hero of the story to also kind of have like an origin story of being a Brazilian, somebody who gets fought but doesn't get noticed, and then in post-war time ends up having to have all of these freaking Germans invade their country in a different way, in a quiet way. And I was just thinking, like, how very cool it was that he chose that. So now I'm going to go around and look at the contributions of other nations that were kind of unsung heroes of World War II.
I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing.
Is there anything else we want to cover before we move on? Because, like, before we call it for the day, because I think this is going to be a shorter one, obviously. But
yeah, let's get to the end of this though. When he goes, Joy Boy, I'm so happy to get to see you again. We talked about this, and I have a little bit more to say it. So let's do this first with all of our people here. So Drawk feels like Luffy doesn't have to know that he's Joy Boy, and it doesn't matter.
I'm fine with him not knowing. I want Joy Boy to be something that matters because of how you act without knowing about it.
Okay. And
you feel
I feel very the opposite.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it last night.
To know about Joy Boy.
And I was thinking about it last night and why I realized I feel the opposite after we got off our call. I realized that for me, the reason that Luffy needs to know that he's Joy Boy is it doesn't count as an act of selflessness or not having your head grow big with egotism when you find out information if you don't even know who you are. So Luffy knows how strong he is at Haki, and it does nothing to his personality as far as change who he is. And Luffy has, he understands how hard he has worked and trained to fight, and yet he remains humble. It doesn't count as being humble and as having new information and new growth come to you, but you remaining a non-egotistical force unless you know what it is that you have to be proud of. And so for me, having Luffy find out who he is and seeing the casualness in which he can deny it or ignore it or just say, oh, does that mean I have a bunch of friends all over the place that I can wake up? You know what I mean? No, by that? Like, if he knows who he is, it can change the world the way that he interacts, because just like the Iron Giant, maybe there are other things that will wake for Luffy. Also, he'll understand why he can hear things that other people can't hear, which becomes part of a weapon that he needs to have and he needs to know. And so for me, I'm like, okay, get off the Potter piss. Like, Bonnie knowing who Luffy is, but Luffy not knowing who Luffy is, that pisses me off. And so in order to continue to be the character that he is, he needs to know so we can watch it not change him. And he needs to know, because you can't have somebody like Bonnie, a 12-year-old kid, get to know who Luffy is, but Luffy to remain ignorant of his own self. So I'm on team, tell Luffy who the shit he is.
Tell Luffy he's the Joy Boy. Okay.
You are the boy of joy.
Now that you've said that, do you want me to tell you my favorite fan theory I've heard for what the One Piece is? Because it might reframe some of your thinking now that you're allowed
I would
to know
love
about
that. I've been released. Yes. I'm going to watch so many things.
I will send you this video. This is the one I find most convincing of all the theories I've seen. The theory is that the One Piece is a comic book.
Oh.
It is a laugh comic tale book. And the idea is that Joy Boy the God
But a
was
manga, right? A manga.
well, but the idea is apparently when Kuma talks about hero, the term he uses is the term that Japanese uses for superheroes. So the idea is that Joy Boy was a god, sure, it was treated as a god, but was like a comic strip superhero fighting bad guys. And that's why we had to establish comic books as existing in the One Piece world. And the whole message there is, well, what do you mean by the One Piece is going to change the world? How could a comic book change a world? One Piece is a thesis about how that's possible because it is a comic book that is changing the world.
Okay, yes and no, because when the gentleman left Laugh Tale, they knew to predict that Luffy would be coming in 20 years hence.
I have something that this is why I wanted to mention it. This to me ties in with Dimension Piece. Do you know who has another devil fruit power we didn't mention earlier that can make pocket
dimensions? Are you talking about the
dimensions?
book power?
I'm talking about Montdor, who can create pocket dimensions based off of books. What if the Ancient Kingdom, the story of the Ancient Kingdom, wasn't originally a comic book, but was turned into a comic book with
Wouldn't they be able, because I had this, I actually had this thought all on my own when I said to you about I think Joy Boy will talk for himself, when they keep saying over and over again, see, Wano, part whatever. Mama already made a similar prediction that Laugh Tale would be a funny story written by Joy Boy. Yes. Yep. So then I took that one that Dr. Jack is talking about, and I took the book thing, and I thought, okay, they keep mentioning how the people of the past will speak in the future. And that's what they say, or their voices will be heard. They don't say their tale will be told, right? Yeah. They say that we will hear them. So I was like, but what if that was happening because just like Book Dude, they could put the people in there? But then I was thinking, like, wouldn't they have been able to release them? Is there a different way in which they are attached in that dimension so they can't be released? Because the people in those books could be released. Yeah. So wouldn't Roger's crew have released them?
Unless you couldn't for some reason, unless there was a reason not to. But I think that's such a fun idea. I just love it. I
love the idea. I think it's a great place to think about.
I'm trying to find the panel because there's a panel in the chapter with the He Laughed where it looks like Roger's holding a page.
Yes. But I thought that page was a note.
Yeah. The idea is around the theory that the page is the comic book One Piece, the One Piece that he was reading about Joy Boy and his adventures. But when you brought up Dimension Piece, the idea that someone with Montdor's power could have like stored the Ancient Kingdom into a comic book story of themselves, I think is crazy.
Yeah, I love it. I had so many questions about Dimension Piece. I
mean, it's your theory. Dimension Piece is your idea.
No, I know, but I had so many questions about dimensions and stuff before that. I think it was in Whole Cake Island when I started to think, and then we talked about this in Patreon, how I think
Kaido says Luffy looks like he's right out of comic strip is another piece of evidence for it, yes.
Oh, and the way that Luffy fights as a full comic strip.
Yeah.
But we talked about how I think that it's possible that there could be like riparian zones between different aspects of the dimension world. How the Mir world could have a blended area that goes into the book world, which has a blended area, and the door world, which has a blended area again. And how all of the dimensions can be connected, and that you could travel through dimensions, and that maybe some of our bad guys, like the Blackbeards and his crew, one of the reasons that they keep showing up in fricking places all the time where they shouldn't have been able to get to because it's difficult to get to places even with a log pose. And now suddenly they're in these places they need to be. Could be that they're traveling using dimension.
You're allowed theories now. Okay, so there is a theory that I love, and it basically is Blackbeard's getting everywhere with Van Auger's teleport fruit. But a theory that I just saw come out that I'm going to send you because it's so good. It's so fucking good. It's mentioned when they talk about underwater eddies when they're going to Fishman Island that there are whirlpools that show up sometimes that can suck you in and spit you out thousands of miles away. The theory is that Shanks can show up everywhere because he's mastered underwater travel by ship coding and knows how to ride those whirlpools to just show up everywhere, which is how he fought Kaido and then showed up in Marineford.
Shanks doing that makes 1,000,000%. Mm-hmm. I will totally go for that. But I think in a separate theory that it's possible that Blackbeard is using dimension.
Because he does have the Yami Yami no Mi, which goes to another dimension.
Which goes to another dimension. He has the black...
It does seem like he gets from Amazon Lily to Winter Island, and all that very quickly. So the idea of him opening a black vortex in front of his boat
and then going through it.
And that's so fantasy pirate to just be sailing into something and vanishing. And it's but it explains both why Shanks's crew has no devil fruits and Blackbeard's crew has all devil fruits.
All devil fruits.
If Blackbeard can just skip traveling underwater and not need to worry about it by black vortex and appear somewhere, and Shanks has the natural version of riding these underwater whirlpools.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't want any of the crew to have any kind of devil fruit because they are going underwater all the time.
Uh-huh.
And you would want everybody to have a devil fruit if you were traveling in dimension.
I love the idea of Blackbeard using black vortex to teleport around the world. I hope that's true. It's one of the ones I'm less confident of your theories, but if it is, it's so cool.
Oh, that isn't a theory that I have even spent enough time on. I just started to imagine in my head, what if, because when Luffy was running through Mirror World and showing up in different people's houses, I was like, but what is the limitation of it? Is the limitation from the person who has the mirror fruit, or once you're inside Mirror World, is that just forever? Can you just keep running and going inside of Mirror World? And is that the whole world, but in mirror dimension? Right? And then I was like, what if you could tap into that shit? What if you could get into a dimension and then just use it as a traveling port? And if there are faster and slower ways to do it, and if somebody could master traveling through dimensions.
Wow. I think it'd be pretty fucking sick, and I think the Yami Yami no Mi needs to do more than we've seen of it, for sure. What that is, I have no fucking idea, but there is definitely more to it than just canceling devil fruits.
This is interesting too. Dancing Vero said, I want to augment your theory. I think the interdimensional shenanigans could also be the reason why Blackbeard can steal devil fruit with his dark fruit. He's tapping into the fruit dimension.
The fruit, okay, that sounds silly phrased like that, but I think that actually could make sense.
But it makes a lot of sense.
What if Blackbeard have a real devil inside it, like we've theorized, have a real demon, like what the elders are trapped in it? That could make a lot of sense.
And what if Blackbeard has just stumbled into a thing that if you have a dimension fruit, that you can park the power of one fruit in there and then switch it for the other when you need it?
Black hole makes so much sense for the ability to tap into other dimensions.
Do you understand what I mean? That if you were a mirror person, you could put your mirror power in Mirror World and use a different power. You just don't know it. And it only is a ability for people with dimension fruits.
I mean, even Brûlé we've seen be able to make mirror copies of people that have devil fruit powers.
Exactly.
Guys, there's some of this is true. What parts of this are true is going to be a nightmare to try to solve, but I think we're in an interesting place with our theories.
Oh, I'm super here for it.
Uranus as a teleporter is one of the cornerstones of Dimension Piece. That's one of the big things we stumbled on first, that this idea that the reason it creates zones of endless void that aren't filled by the ocean, and that the weather and time of day never changes where it's been opened, is that it's locking things dimensionally. Can we share vids on Discord? Yes, Mama's open for everything. However,
there's a room in Discord where you put all the things you think that would be fun for me to watch.
Do we like this better with or without the black shroud around the worm? Like, I know it has the black shroud, but I think it ruins the momentum of the piece a little. Maybe
The
if it's back
interesting thing
here.
for me is I would like the black shroud if it tendrilled a little more.
I think it just gets too big. Maybe back here. Back here, I actually like. That's better.
I actually like it back there a lot. You just don't want to ruin the front of the penis.
It's a worm! y'all, it turns out just fucking jamming on some theories is fun. What do you think for our next stream being going through the
list? Can I just
list?
say this? Did you notice that the worm's face is a cross?
I did not notice that the worm's face is a cross.
The worm's face is a cross, just like a number of people who I think that's going to become relevant of. The worm's face has a cross. It is made as a cross.
Interesting. I also think something that I love as a theory, people will point out, like, I think there's something very important about double-layered eyes, because we only see it from Zunesha, Emu, and Mihawk, and then people have to point out, okay, but we also see it from Sleepy Cavendish, but that could be a demon, okay, demon possessing him, sure, but we also see it from Caribou. So if you want a theory about double-ringed eyes being important, it needs to somehow include Caribou as well. So,
Caribou. Like, way to make the day suck more by mentioning that shit face.
Come on, everybody. How does Caribou tie into the double-ringed eye theory? Guys, this is fucking great. This is fucking fantastic. We are on some shit now. We're able to freely jam out and theorize together. You're part of the One Piece community.
Oh wait, I just want to say this now before I forget. Yeah. Two things. Number one, do you know who Atlas's dad is? His mom is Gaia. You know who his dad is?
Who's that?
Uranus.
I mean, that makes sense. That's a god. That's a titan of this, or primordial of the sky.
I think it's a very interesting thing to have Atlas be in that position. Okay, the next thing. Everybody zoomed past the fact that the whole world didn't know that it was Gold D. Roger, and I think that's amazing and hilarious, and I laugh and I laugh.
I saw something very funny where someone was like, Whitebeard was like, your name is Gold D. Roger, not Gold Roger, and then someone showed the front of Roger's ship where his sail says in big letters, Gold D. Roger. Whitebeard, did you never read his sail?
But something that I think is really, really important is Vegapunk says, 25 years ago, the pirate Gold D. Roger completed an unprecedented tour of the entire world, and what he and his crew heard, remember, it's heard.
Yep, it is heard. It is not written as, like, read
were likely the purest voices of the past. So the purest voices, pure can be close to the source, untethered from lies. So purest, when I looked it up in Judaism, is also that thing about the divine will of truth. And that's where power comes from. So that would also likely to be that. And also the purest voices would be like song or speaking. So we are literally going to hear from the people from the past.
I agree, and I'm so excited to reach Film Red so that I can see the context of it, because it's the movie, from what I understand, Oda was the most involved with, and it is about dimension powers and song, and brings up the Sea Devil, which I think is going to be relevant. So we gotta watch a bunch of movies to catch up to Film Red.
People keep saying that Bink Saki, because I've had a lot of people in
Bink Sake is used as the theory.
A thing saying that they think Bink Sake is the whole thing told, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But we know that song has to be important, because when Luffy went through the list of people he needed, wasn't having somebody who could sing a musician like number 2?
Yeah, that was Luffy's big priority. He wanted a musician
as number 2, right?
I think it was the first thing he mentioned wanting. He picked up Zoro just because he was
musician there. Before cook. Yeah. So when your hero is talking about his crew and says, the next thing we need is a musician,
Before doctor, before
Before
chef,
doctor, before
before
cook.
navigator, he was like, I need music man.
That is the ultimate in foreshadowing, in my opinion.
It feels like a huge hint. Yeah. The
Yeah.
Pink Sake is important to the story in a major way, for sure. Luffy quotes it when he goes back into Gear 5th against Kaido.
I see you, Smelly Boy, and I'm taking a picture of your thing so I can look at that later. Smelly Boy. That's not how I want to be known. Good on you.
Oh, I forgot to save a time lapse, did I? Well, joke's on me. I did. Fuck.
Did you use what's his face? Craig?
Did I use Craig? Joke's on me. I didn't.
Oh God, I was just thinking how I didn't hear Craig bot.
Yeah,
And jokes
today I
on
forgot
you.
all of the important stuff because I am not at my home office, and there was a lot more to get
Okay,
set up than
you
normal.
with the face. Please thank our Patreons. First, I'm gonna thank our Patreons, and then can you pick a drunk uncle of the day who is now?
We call them special squishies.
We call them special squishies. That's what I was about to say. Is that they're now, or one of our ultimate, and then pick one of our ultimate layer as well.
Okay, we'll do one of the crew, one of the special squishies.
Okay, you get one first, and then I'll do my Patreon. Thank you, and then we can put our list up here.
All right. This one is dedicated to. I just realized the problem is I need to pronounce a thing now. I need to pronounce something. Vihilsta. Vihilsta, thank you so much for being a special squishy. You were very appreciated, even if I wasn't sure how to take a run at your name.
Okay, pick one of our ultimate tiers too.
This crew shout out goes to Draco
No, I'm gonna give
Meme.
a special.
Oh, you want one?
Draco Meme. Mm-hmm. This is from me, Mama Drawk.
Yeah.
You're a special dude, Draco Meme. I hope that this week gives you nothing but rainbows, kittens, sparkles, puppies, and Pegasus.
Maybe you do this. It turns out in general you're better at giving a thank you. You put some flavor on. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, that's called spice.
Okay,
we gotta still do our things. Listen to me, Drawk. I know you ain't no good at this because you're usually not allowed to be so talkative, and this is new ground. But this is the part where we do our top 5.
Wait. I guess we were talking about Egghead, but we already did a top. So this is for all of Egghead, not for either part.
No. This is for 120.
This is for just this chapter, just 1120.
That's how it works, baby. I don't know what to tell you. We only got one chapter.
Wait. So from now on, you want to do episodes where we'll just talk about one chapter and they'll still have the. I mean, we didn't just talk about this one chapter, though. We talked about the whole series and then also mostly all of Egghead.
Drawk, is this your way of cheating to get to look at the whole chapter to do your favorite things because you didn't like mine?
It's not. It's just like if we're doing.
We're going to do it every. You can't wait for a whole arc, Drawk. You just
can't. Should it be a top 5 or should it be a top 3 if it's only one chapter? What do you think?
You know what? I'm going to allow it. Oh, I didn't do my YouTube plug. Get out of here with your face, Drawk.
Okay. Hey, editor, I'm so sorry for forgetting Craig Bot. I'm traveling and it's okay. Hey, editor, I'm so sorry for forgetting Craig Bot. I'm traveling and it's hard to do stuff.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I got sent that piece for one of my YouTube things. I nearly died laughing at what Lav did. Lav did a thing that was
on the most recent one. That's
so ridiculous. True. I almost peed myself laughing.
I really like how the Iron Giant turned out. I wasn't feeling it for a while, but I think this looks really cool.
What do you mean you weren't feeling it? It was phenomenal from the word go.
I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't really feeling it.
I need you to not be rude to the Iron Giant. I'm hoping we can crawl in the Iron Giant. That isn't a prediction.
That's a living dude.
That's not a prediction. It's a hope.
Thank you.
I want to crawl in that living dude. Like
the
statue of, hi there, YouTube. It's me.
What up, YouTube?
Mama Drawk.
Mama Drawk.
I'm here to say, subscribe.
Subscribe.
Subscribing is the thing that you should do.
Whoa, I need to clarify. You can't say and then roll right into subscribe because it sounds like you're saying unsubscribe.
Oh, here's what I need you to do then. Be quiet because I'm about to do this in a real way. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready as hell.
I'm gonna do the most hinged YouTube thing you've ever heard in your life.
Most hinged.
I'm Mama Drawk, and I'm here to say it's time for you to subscribe today. Rock it on down to the corner of your screen and push that button and have us seen. Yeah, word to your mother, Drawk.
It was good.
I can't even. Oh God. If you want pumpkin faces, you can also send us mail. The mail number. The number of mail is up here on the screen where you send mail.
The mail number.
The mail number, and you can put on it Mama Drawk, because that's what you should put on it. Because otherwise, Drawk gets all pissy. And you should write us things about. Oh, can people send postcards of their town? I want to put postcards from different places that our people are from. I was looking.
No, you go first.
When I was looking at my pin board, my happy board of corkdom, I was like, I want to put pictures from where our people come from all over the world on here. Oh, I'm not done. Carry on. You say your thing, and then I'll say my thing.
What I was going to say is we're going to try to next week watch a couple movies together to make our way to Film Red.
Yeah.
We open packages. We are only going to have one package to open because that was all that came in before I left on this trip. However, holy shit, it's loaded with stuff. There's going to be so much to go through. I'm so excited. I have been like losing my mind looking at it and being like, if you were the person who sent One Piece trading cards, I had to go through to make sure there wasn't like a tracker or something, because that's the thing someone advised me to do. It makes sense. I didn't go through in detail. I don't know what's there. Know that the next Patreon stream, we are going to be going through your package. So if that was you who sent it, we're going to be opening your package next Patreon stream. Probably Film Z in gold. Hopefully this week. If not, next week is the goal.
I wasn't done in the thing. I forgot.
Okay.
Subscribe. Press like. I know you like it. Do you know that I forgot to like something, but now that we're streamers, I was watching something and it was so cool.
Yeah.
A little hinged.
Yeah.
And I had to go back today and like it because I was like, did I like that? The answer is no, I did not like it. So this is your opportunity for me to remind you so you don't look like a schmo. And we're almost at 20,000, which is really important. Every time you like it, it actually matters because then it pops it off so everyone sees it. Look at that. You did. I know you say it's a worm, but I'm just going to tell you.
It's a worm.
Okay.
That's a worm. It's a big worm. What do you think worms look like?
Okay, let's do outfits first, because you're not used to this. This is new ground for you, Drawk. New ground.
All of them per chapter? A chapter gets all of them? This is crazy.
Favorite outfit, Drawk?
Let me just give me a second here. Favorite outfit. I'm only gonna do one. We're gonna do a smaller version. I'm figuring, So I'm only gonna do one. Don't question what I'm doing right now. It's just don't question.
He's stealing.
Well, no, what I'm doing is I forgot to transfer this file onto my travel computer, so I need to real quick find a way to get my signature on something without access to it the normal way. Okay. I'm going to go up, I'm going to open the chapter, I'm going to flick through to be reminded of who had what drip in this one, just real quick. I didn't expect to be doing drip here, because it's one chapter. Oh, Past Clover. Past Clover's the drip, yeah.
Drip.
That's the guy, Clover from the past. He looks great.
All right. Well, then I'm not going to pick him.
Okay.
No. You know what? I'm going to pick Baby Dragon.
You're going to pick Past Baby Dragon?
Yeah.
Vegapunk's little guy?
Yeah. Doesn't he get eaten?
I think the little one, it depends if that one grows up. If that one's
that one grows up, it becomes the big dragon.
If it becomes the big one, yes, but there's also the green one. So if that's the green one, it doesn't get eaten. If that's the red one,
no, I think it's the orange one.
Well, red.
I think
yeah.
reddy orange.
Well, like red. It's a red dragon. You don't make an orange dragon. Dragons come in red and
Whatever. Don't
green.
make me eat your face.
Oh, I'm sorry, but that's a red dragon. Yeah, if that's the red one, he gets 8.
Yeah. God damn it, Luffy.
However, if it's the green one, he's fine.
Luffy in this one for me is
The big
like
one's behind Clover. That one doesn't get eaten.
is like B tier.
What does Luffy do here? He just kind of reacts to stuff, right?
Yeah, he's like B tier.
Yeah, this chapter, I'm giving this a C tier Luffy. On the Luffy
Even
bell curve,
C tier.
I'm a
Yeah.
bell curve grader is how I live, you know? And
I'm C tiering Luffy too.
Luffy standards.
Do you know that
it's
I've never given Luffy anything under a B?
Well, that's because you're usually ranking him for an entire arc, not just for
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take this moment to C tier Luffy because yeah, I love that. That is a great signature on that.
Thank you.
I love this. It's turned out beautifully.
All right.
You should high five yourself.
All right, thank you.
You are a talented human being, and I'm proud of you.
My top 3. Oh, wait, are we doing it by consensus now? Are we having a vote on a top 3?
Well, because it's only a chapter, I say yes for now.
Okay. Well, here's the issue. I'm not going to get to do the sneaky thing I wanted to do and put York on there if we have to agree, so let's skip her. I'm voting Clover number 1.
Interesting, because I was thinking Atlas.
I was thinking Atlas number 2, but I could see both. You know what? I'll agree. How do you feel about Atlas number 1, Clover number 2, and number 3 maybe Stella?
I'll allow.
That
I think that's a fair. But also number
Stella
3 could have easily. That's what I was just about to say. The other one could be Emmett, and I kind of like Emmett.
I think Emmett. I think it's Emmett.
Emmett does more.
Yeah, I think he does more here. Stella, we learn about the lesson he learned, but he didn't really do the thing this chapter. So I think Emmett. It's yeah, we got it. We got a top 3. Favorite minor character? Are you going Baby Dragon?
No, I already made Baby Dragon drip.
Yeah, I mean, he could double dip.
No, bruh. No, okay. I like to make things complicated on myself. We're not voting for the penis worm. It's a bad guy.
Sometimes you put bad guys. What I'm going to say for a minor character, you know who I love as a minor character? I love baby old lady Bluegrass. Yeah.
Okay. I'll go with that as long as you go with gas bullshit dude as being least favorite minor character.
Caesar Clown? Yeah. Caesar Clown's worst character of the chapter.
Yeah, because honestly, old horse dude, he's just rocking it, being gross and terrible. Right. So is the worm. The spider, that spider jump, he really knows how to play with arachnophobia, doesn't he?
Hear me out.
Spider jumping in.
I have a suggestion for how we do these episodes, okay? I'm thinking from now on, what we'll do is we'll do whatever our topic of the stream is, and then at the end of stream, if a new chapter came out that week, we do this for that week's chapter and a quick discourse about the chapter. How does that sound?
Love it. I love that.
Yeah. So
we're just making our way downtown.
Yeah. So I'm thinking next episode, we do the going through your 250 predictions to count up your stars, mushrooms, shroom stars, shooting diamond shroom stars. Next episode, we take stock, right? We take stock.
Thank
next
you, Eater,
episode.
Render.
And then at the end of that episode, we'll talk about 1121.
Yeah.
And that part won't get into the YouTube video so that these work for posterity. So this part here where we talk about 1120.
I see you.
This part where we talk about 1120 won't get into the YouTube video. It'll just be for the VOD. But that's how it'll just be from now on, is we'll just do a little
You know what I think, though, about this particular video?
What's that?
I have made a choice. You want to hear my choice?
What's that?
Okay. I say that this video is the first in our videos that we've made that is post caught up. But I say this one we put out into the universe, and we do that sometimes, and we call it caught up spoiler chat. And that way we can put things out of order whenever we want.
I agree. I think this one could be cut down to a stellar 35 minutes of our fucking cooking theories.
Yeah.
All right. A complete Straw Hat drip list is going to happen at some point. All right, guys. Thanks for being here.
Luffy, my Luffy, devil fruit beside my ace is pointing at my Luffy. They both say, watch your asses, world. We're going to find the One Piece.
Hell yeah. Let me see if I can find anyone I think is cool.
Hey, Katu Luminous is searching for helpers to scour through the VODs in order to complete the predictions. If any of you people on here want to be in our Discord and you get, I think what they do is they give you a small section of video and then you go through that to look through any predictions I made to make sure they were all counted and all of them go inside so that we can go through them. That's going to be freaking wild.
Literally none of the streamers that I know offhand
this
are
person
streaming.
who is Paladin, and we know Paladin, would like you to raid the Normies TV.
Okay, you know what? I know you, Paladin. We will hold off on Oak Tea for today because Oak Tea is streaming. It's Normies TV.
Normies, the. It's capital T, the, capital N, Normies, TV, both capitals. Nicola, you can go in there and be given an area that you can look through.
We're sending you to the Normies.
Nicola Chio.
We see at the Normies, two people. They're talking. That's what I can gather from this. We're sending y'all over there. Be nice, represent us well, be like Canadian tourists, and be ambassadors to your country of the Drawk show.
Put your passport in your pocket, people. Put your passport in your pocket.
Try to very, very quickly pack up an entire streaming studio so that I can do a 3.5 hour drive. But until next time,
squish on, squishies.
Hey. It's been lovely talking to you. Bye.
Bye, guys.